Who was Tamar in the Bible? There are 3 women named Tamar in Scripture. One Tamar, the beautiful daughter of Absalom, is only mentioned in passing in 2 Samuel 14:27. We can assume that Absalom called his daughter Tamar to honor his disgraced sister Tamar, who was defiled by his half-brother Amnon. This Tamar, Absalom's daughter, became the mother of Queen Maacah, who married King Rehoboam. There is all we know about her. The other 2 Tamars are both tragic figures, women who were ruined by the neglect and abuse of close family members. Their stories seem to be included in Scripture for the purpose of providing historical and spiritual information about the Messianic line. We will focus on Tamar, the daughter-in-law of Judah, and Tamar, the daughter of David. Jacob's son Judah, the patriarch of the line of Judah, had 3 sons, Onan, and Shelah. A woman named Tamar married but was killed by God for his evil deeds, which Scripture does not dwell upon. Widowed Tamar was to marry the next of kin by the Mosaic law. Brother Onan was the legitimate candidate. As Tamar had no children with her deceased husband his brother Onan was expected and obliged to give her an heir. But Onan refused to fulfill his obligation and spilled his seed on the ground instead of impregnating his wife Tamar. For such audacious disobedience, Onan was put to death by God as well, just like his elder brother We discussed this account in detail in our previous video. The youngest brother of and Onan was Shelah. He was the next one to marry, now twice widowed Tamar, but he was still a boy and could not give Tamar a child. So Judah asked her to return to her father's house and wait until Shelah was grown up. However, once Shelah was old enough, Judah did not honor his promise. He was probably afraid that he would lose his last surviving son to God's wrath. Tamar remained an unmarried widow for quite some time. Realizing that the time was running out for her to conceive a child, Tamar decided to get pregnant by the seed of Judah that was promised to her, but she did it in a treacherous and cunning way. So she went into town disguised as a prostitute, tricked Judah, and tempted him into sleeping with her. They settled on payment. Judah was to send her a young goat from his flock. Tamar agreed but requested a pledge. She asked Judah to leave his signet, cord, and staff, and she used them later as proof of their intercourse. As a result of her clever or to some conniving scheme, she got pregnant and bore twin sons named Perez and Zerah. The story is recorded in Genesis 38. We would expect the twin sons of Judah's incestuous union with his daughter-in-law to be outcasts, hidden away, or perhaps not even mentioned in the Bible. However, surprisingly, the Messianic line continues through Tamar's son Perez. God did not provide a cleaner way to continue the line that would eventually include his son. Perez became the ancestor of Jesus of Nazareth. The other Tamar was King David's daughter. She had a brother Absalom and a half-brother Amnon. Amnon had an obsessive desire for his half-sister Tamar, and one day he pretended to be sick and called for her to come to him in his bedroom to help him. Being a compassionate and dutiful girl, she did come to his aid. When Tamar was there alone with Amnon, he seized and raped her and then banished her from the room. Her full brother Absalom did not take any actions immediately after the incident. Absalom thought it wise to wait 2 full years before avenging Tamar. That would make it appear that he had no intention of laying violent hands on Amnon, although it was his plan all along. As firstborn, Amnon was to inherit the throne of his father King David, but Absalom wanted to become the king himself. So only 2 years later, Absalom enacts vengeance against his sister Tamar murdering Amnon. Unfortunately, though David was angry, he did not punish Amnon because he loved him, for he was his firstborn, 2 Samuel 13:21. King David, Tamar's father, did not even order Amnon to marry his defiled daughter, which is despicable even nowadays. Absalom's anger and bitterness toward his father because of these events eventually led to his attempt to usurp his throne and to disgrace David by committing public immorality with his father's concubines. Absalom's anger and rejection of his father's rule seem to have been born out of a festering bitterness toward David. Though Absalom was clearly in the wrong for the murder of Amnon, we sympathize with him, and we sympathize with his disgraced sister. Although most likely the true reason of killing Amnon was to prevent him from inheriting David's throne. Considering King David's own immorality and the murder he committed, it is easy to see why Absalom thought himself the better man. But despite David's faults, God still chose to continue the line of the Messiah through David rather than through Absalom. As for poor Tamar, she lived the rest of her life forlorn in her brother Absalom's house. Why are these unpleasant stories included in Scripture, and why are the people involved, people who hurt others, even their own family members, granted the privilege of being included in the messianic line? It may be simply to show us that God's purpose is accomplished despite man's unrighteousness. In Hebrews 11, there's a long list of Old Testament people who are commended for their faith, and among them are many sinful people who did dreadful things. But because they did believe in God, their faith was credited to them as righteousness, Genesis 15:6.